Coming up next on Insights on PBS Hawaii, a one-size-fits-all approach to education doesn't work in Hawaii. Problems like poverty, homelessness, and geographic isolation can take their toll in the island's classrooms. Teachers and the community are joining forces to help all public school students gain access to quality education. Tonight we explore what's working and what still needs to be done. We ask the question, how can Hawaii help students whose family and economic situations interfere with learning? Aloha and welcome to Insights on PBS Hawaii. I'm Dan Boylan. Next Monday, 183,500 island students go back to school. Hawaii's public schools share the same goals to prepare students to enter college or to enter the workforce. But if students can't do simple math, or if they can't read, both will remain out of reach. As an island state with a diverse population, geography, poverty, parental drug use, abuse, neglect, and even incarceration can all pose barriers to education. What is the public school system doing to combat these challenges? What else can the community do to help students when social and economic obstacles get in the way of learning? We invite you to join our conversation by calling, emailing, or tweeting your questions and comments. The contact information you now see on your screen will be repeated throughout the program. Insights is also streaming live on your computer and will be posted on our website, pbshawaii.org, after the broadcast. The live stream is closed caption, just like our broadcast. Now to our panel. Ronn Nozoe has been Deputy Superintendent of the Hawaii State Department of Education since 2010. He was part of the team that presented Hawaii's school reform plan to the United States Department of Education, winning the state a $75 million Race to the Top grant. Dean Cevallos is the principal of Keaau High School on the island of Hawaii. Prior to that, he was the principal at Pahoa High and Intermediate, where he began his teaching career as a special education teacher. Danny Goya is the program director at Alana Traveling Preschool and Homeless Family Education Program, operated by Partners in Development. Danny is one of only 2 male certified trainers for the National Center for Family Literacy. His focus is on homeless families. Jill Baldemor is the executive director of Teach for America Hawaii and a former Teacher for America. At the helm since 2007, Jill has expanded the program to nearly 200 teachers. Dean, I guess you're the closest one to the field, if you will. When your teachers and your counselors come to you to talk about problems that are confronting students, social and economic and family problems, what are the things, geographic problems, what are the things that come up most often?
Most of what we have are the ability to get support for the kids to come to school. You know, our kids are so isolated from any sort of mass transit or the ability to have any resources other than going into the main town of Hilo that socialization becomes a problem. So they go into Facebook, they go into MySpace, and they try to then create relationships and have some sort of a connection through that. And so we have a lot of issues that we have to handle because when, you know, if we were doing this via an email or a Twitter, it would be a lot different than me talking to you face to face. So problems come up with that a lot with our counselors about trying to downplay things that have been read wrong or explained wrong, and then trying to get these kids to be able to access anything is very difficult because, you know, the trips from Hilo to Keaau for what we call Helion, which is your busing system, there's only 6 trips that go out from Hilo and 6 trips that go back. So to access anything for the kids is very difficult. So their socialization is the school. When they come to school, everything happens at the school. If there's something that happened, you know, over the weekend, it filtrates itself the next day on the campus. So they're dealing with a lot of that. So we counsel, we have school-based behavioral health that help with us. we try to mediate as much as possible, do any response to interventions that we can to try to settle that in.
What about attendance? I mean, is attendance a difficult problem with kids coming from so many different isolated places, rural places?
Well, we're the rainy side of the island. So our kids, due to now the regular buses only go down the main highway. They don't go up the subdivision roads because most of them are unpaved. So our kids walk anywhere from about 3 to 8 miles to catch a bus. Now, the kids get up probably around 4:30 or 5 because they have to catch the bus to get to the school by 7. And they wait alongside of a road. Now, most of them don't go running around with umbrellas. So they're walking through potholes, they're walking through, road streets. They have nobody supervising them. They're walking, So when you get up in the morning and it's pouring rain, and you have to walk 8 miles down to get the bus to get to school.
Kids are walking 8 miles to...
8 miles. That's absolutely no exaggeration. They will, from the subdivisions, in my subdivision alone, to get back to the end, it's about 6.5 in just my subdivision. And the buses do not go up the subdivisions. They stay on the main highway. You have to come down to the main highway. And most of our families are either farmers or they work in Hilo, and they leave very early in the morning. And so our kids do not get transported down to the bus stops. We have no bus covers. There are no, they're just waiting out there in the rain. And you don't have a street light to walk across. They're walking across the highway waiting for the bus to come on. There's no crosswalk. There's no nothing, right? It's pretty desolate for any one of the kids. So our attendance has a lot to do with, is it the right day to come in? Can I make it in? Am I sick? Mom had to work 3 jobs. They can't take me down to the bus today. It's very difficult for the kids to say, whoopee, I want to go to school, and I'm going to get drenched when I get there, and I can't dry my clothes, I can't do anything. So I honor our kids that come because they do. I think we have a pretty good attendance, not chronic though. Our chronic attendance isn't that great, but our attendance rate is way up in the 80s and 90s. And so when you think about what they have to do, I think our attendance rate is pretty good. These kids, like I said, want to come. They want to socialize. They want to get a breakfast. They want to get a lunch. We're situated in the poorest area in the state. Even though my school only registers about an 80%, our feeder schools are well above that, 85 to 90-something% free or reduced.
But part of it is, and this is something I believe that is true in talking about a lot of schools, is that the school becomes a center for the community in a lot of ways. And in that way, you benefit because people really need it.
Yes.
Right? Whereas in urban schools, isn't there a problem where the city literally and its distractions compete with the school for interest of students?
Well, I don't know if it's a competition. I think it more speaks to the work that folks like Dean, Dean's very humble, so he's not talking about all the work that he and his staff have done to make school so engaging that kids want to be there, and what they've done to make sure that the school's a safe place and that their discipline problems aren't a big deal. That's a lot of effort on many hands, many heads and minds and hands pitching in. And, I don't think it's so much of a competition with the sort of external forces, versus town versus in country schools. But I do think it's on all of us in the Department of Education. Students don't respond to, we were joking about it earlier, right? Students don't respond to just sit down and deliver the lesson anymore. They crave authenticity in the classroom, engagement, different kinds of learning experiences. And it's up to us really to change that playing field so that kids want to be in school. Because like Dean's saying, when the kids want to be in school, they will walk far through rain, through potholes, or to get to school. And it doesn't matter where that is. If school's not engaging, then kids aren't going to come. So I think it's more about what we can do rather than the external forces, because the external forces have always been external forces. The difference maker is the level of commitment and professionalism and integrity and dedication to doing the right thing for kids. I think that today's kids really sense that genuineness. They know right away when people aren't sincere, and they will do anything when people are and they're caring. So for us, we try not to, like, we do worry about all those issues, but we try not to focus on them and rather focus on what we have control over instead.
But there are problems at home. Poverty, you deal with homeless people, right? What do you do when a kid's living in the back seat of a car, or he's, you know, sleeping in a tent on the beach? How do you get a kid like that to school on better than at an 80%, even an 80% rate? I mean, how do you do that?
You know, a lot of it is developing relationships with the families, and we start that in our early childhood at preschool centers, almost coaching the parents and really empowering them to be their child's first and foremost influential educator. And then even going to the point where we'll go with them and help them register for school. We do a lot of school supply purchasing at this time. And as an experiment, I just tried purchasing some school supplies from 7-Eleven and Long's, which is the two places that are closest for someone who's
we're on the Waianae coast. That's where you're operating.
Who's houseless, and the bill came out to about $200 per child for school supplies. You know, we have the luxury of either going to Fisher, Hawaii, or Costco, or, you know, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be naming these places,
you can name anything. We're public television here.
No, but you know,
Anybody you want to name.
So I think sometimes we can overlook the advantages we have, the resources we have that our families without don't have. So the idea is to try and close that gap as best as possible.
Danny, where do you get your resources? Where do you get your financing?
That's a good question. I do a lot of begging, borrowing. The community's great. Partners in Development Foundation and its umbrella of programming with Tutu and Me and foster care, they are so rooted in the community that there are a lot of community supporters there that find their way towards to us and are generous. And they know that it's going to the people in need. And we do demonstrate the gains of the people receiving everything too. So,
my wife taught on the Waianae Coast, Makaha Elementary School, for 13 years.
Great school.
And but when her coterie went in there, of course, all of them had to drive a long, long way from town. I was a graduate student up at Cevallos Heights, right? So they're driving all the way out there, and they're all trying to get out of there as soon as they can. It took 13 years at that time to get closer to town where they live. But the thing that you often saw was the dedication of the teachers. You got younger teachers in communities like that. That's where they could get in, right? And they had a great deal of enthusiasm and ambition.
Yeah, I actually have a former student. I was an educator before I got into this. Kanoi Wasano, if you're watching this, she's from town and she's dedicated herself to teach at Makaha Elementary and doing really well out there. So you do have, it all starts with the teachers and the relationships that you have with your students and even with your former students, and then you start teaching siblings. So if once that relationship is held dear, the families will confide in you, and we can then provide the things that they tell us they need.
But the teachers want to get out of there, right, eventually?
Some do, but I think there's the greater push, and especially some of the schools that I've been seeing. I mean, you have the challenges with turnover, but you also have the core of dedicated teachers that the students will gravitate back to.
But Jill, isn't that where Teach for America comes in?
I mean, it is one of the things that, you know, we do is we serve lots of our lower income communities so that, you know, we can become part of the people pipeline and be a source of talent and leadership pipeline for our schools and for our communities. But we really, really believe that with all of the challenges, we need lots of community partners and a lot of people really working together because the challenges are real and poverty is real. But like Ron said, what we talk to our teachers about and what our teachers sign up to be about is what can they do, right? What is within their locus of control? How do they build relationships with their parents? How do they make school a really engaging place so that students want to be there and they create a safe environment and a nurturing environment? And what we find is when we recruit people who are really, really passionate about the mission and about the cause and want to be there to go above and beyond and do whatever it takes, they're going to come in and give everything they have, and many, many of them will stay, and they want to be there. They don't want to move back to town. They want to live in the communities. They want to stay in the communities, and they want to build strong relationships with parents and other community members, because that is what it takes.
But Teach for America students are coming from all over the mainland, right? You went to New York from Hawaii, right?
I did.
And spent 2 years up there.
I taught in Washington Heights. We didn't have a Hawaii program when I taught back in 1995, or I would have done the program here in Hawaii. This year we have 100 new teachers in our corps, and a third of them are from Hawaii. They're kama'aina coming back home to serve. Many of them went away to the mainland and saw this as a great opportunity to come back to Hawaii and give back to our communities. One of the other really great things is within our corps of 30 kama'aina, we have a number of Native Hawaiian teachers, and we have some who've even graduated from the schools that they've attended. So we have a new corps member who graduated from Nanakuli High, who's coming back and teaching at one of his old elementary schools at Nanikupono. We have another alum who recently graduated from Campbell High School, came back and taught at Campbell High School. So we're seeing really great evidence of our kids in our local schools and our public schools graduating, coming and going on to college and coming back, and we know it's possible. And the more that we can recruit people to be great role models, the better it's going to be for our students to be able to see this is possible, and our communities to see that. And at the same time, we also think it's really important to bring in people who will bring new perspectives and global views, new ideas, to show our kids and our communities what else is out there and broaden their vision as well. And so we think a really good balance of people who are from Hawaii and not from Hawaii, as long as they are really committed to our kids here, that is going to be really important.
How do you keep people at a rural school? How do you keep teachers at a rural school who perhaps grew up in Honolulu and went to the University of Hawaii, and then they can find a posting over there, but they can't find anywhere at their home school, which was Roosevelt High School, say, and that's where they really like to teach, because that's what they remember. So how do you keep them there?
Most of our teachers, when you talk about relationships, get sucked in by our kids. They absolutely love our kids. They see them grow from 9th through 12th, and even see them coming up. And when our teachers make connections, and they may say, "Oh my gosh, that young man or that young woman," but in reality, they stay because they love the community and they love the school. A majority of my teachers are not from the community I'm in. A majority of them are from, Hilo, because we're close to Hilo.
Right.
And I keep wondering why, when the transfer periods come in, they don't leave. But they don't leave because they're very proud of their school, first of all. They're committed to their kids. They've told their kids that they would stay, and that consistency and that commitment to saying that I'm going to help them, you really end up opening up your heart and knowing that, like Ron said, the consistency and commitment that they do to the campus, the relationships that they build with the families, it's very hard to leave that. When I first came to Keaau, I kind of got placed at Keaau, and when you stand in front of a faculty and you say, "Hey, let's move the school," and you don't tell them I'm going to be there longer for a year, you're not going to get anybody to follow you. The teachers feel the same way when they have the students in 9th grade, and then to be there at graduation to see that they made it. Even though they struggled through them in 9th grade and struggled through 10th, they finally made it. Everything we did with the counselors and the community and the relationship we had to do, even going to the house and, maybe giving them a T-shirt or, okay, here's part of my lunch. Our teachers do that. They don't ever brag about it or say they did, or don't even sometimes tell the families. But, we love these kids. That's why we're all teachers. When I was a special education teacher, I said, "Oh my gosh, look at the growth I get out of these kids," and the regular education kids you get a growth out of too, but it's to see that type of growth, to see the ahas that happen with the kids. It's just a phenomenal, and it captures our teachers. They stay.
Yeah, I don't want to be a cynic, but I'm paid to be a cynic. A little bit, cynic pay. But we always say when we're teachers that we do it because of love of kids or love of students and so forth. But there's a paycheck involved too. And I know in the race for the top money that apparently was going to fund longer days out on the Waianae Coast, a lot of teachers. My wife runs a tutoring program on it now at Keaau. She has to beg people sometimes to take part in it, but it means more money for them, right? But now that you didn't have a great experience first year with that, right?
No, we had a good experience. What we learned is how to be more strategic with extending time and
Now, what does that mean, strategic with extending time?
More minutes doesn't equal better results. It's all about the quality of the teaching. And so if you only had $1 and you were going to invest it on, should I invest in the development of a teacher or should I just make a longer day? I tell you, Dean will know this and you guys all know, I would invest $1 in the development of the teacher any day. Yeah. Because it's not, we have a full school day already. It's what you do within the time that you have that's more important than, so, there was a sort of national thing about let's extend the day. And we found that when the teaching is really excellent, you extend the day, you get great results. But the number one factor in that was whether or not the teaching was excellent. Yes. And today, I think Dean was talking about it, but to be a really good teacher today is super hard. It's not as easy. The kids don't just show up and let's learn. This is real. There's a science to it and there's an art to it, and having both, having the command of both the art and the science of teaching is really difficult. And I think what makes folks commit, it's not just about the individual. We're all motivated by seeing the kid, the aha moment, and seeing the kids get it. But we found that teachers stay when they experience success with students. We all sign up because we want to change the world and do good things and make a difference. And sometimes when you don't achieve that, it's frustrating. But when teachers do achieve that, first of all, they want to get more of it. And second, they want to work with other people who are motivated and driven like them. So, when you're talking about relationships, Dean, that's that whole component. And ultimately, they all want to work with a good principal who knows how to set up the conditions where that it's because of the way that the school is set up, not in spite of. And so, this whole notion of time and what the bell schedule's like and all those things are all important, but not as important as the effectiveness and the quality of the teaching and the leadership of the school.
Lloyd in Waialae says, recent research indicates that the most important indicator of success in an academic career is students' quota of grit. Oh. He says, can grit be taught in the school system and grit in terms of perseverance and so forth? Isn't that what your business is, trying to teach people who are facing poverty, facing homelessness, facing families that may be split up because of some of those factors, with teaching them grit, that you've got to have enough to hang in there even though it's this tough?
Yeah, sure. I think they teach us quite a bit about it too, resiliency. But I think, our approach is the family is involved in the education of the young learner. Parenting classes, adult education classes. Research indicates that the child at that age, at the preschool age, the child's closest relationship is the most intimate relationship, will produce the most results in the development of the child, whether it be cognitive, physical, social, you name it. So to have the caregiver present in what we call family-child interactive learning preschool places are the best opportunity to teach resilience, to teach, we call it po'okela, to strive for excellence. So it's in everything that we do.
Yeah. What's your biggest horror story, Dean? The rain story was hard enough. Then somebody wants to know why doesn't the state or why doesn't the school provide buses or some sort of minibus?
My biggest horror story almost was the elimination of buses. When you talk about attendance or anything to do with education or the community, when the legislature said no more buses, that would have devastated our school. Absolutely devastated our school. We have hills we have to climb every day, but I don't really have a horror story. There's no horror story that I could say that I've ever experienced within the schools. You know, you never work in silos. You know, you work indefinitely in synergies, and my vice principals, my staff, you know, if something happens, they're there.
But Dean, what about the kid who's coming from a situation where he needs you for food, he needs you for but at home he's not getting any support for education. He's got one parent who's got too many kids or has drug problems or whatever. You've got a few drugs, I think, that side of town, don't you? As I understand it. So what do you what do you do in a situation like that? You must face it.
Yes, we face it, and we do what we can with the kids. You know, it's like Ronn said, you know, there's nothing we can do about what happens once the kids leave our gates. You know, we have things in place. We try to counsel them. We try to make sure when they step onto our campus is a safe place to be. We have shirts to make sure that we can spot people that don't belong on there. We have counselors that come in, and if we see somebody crying after they've gotten off the bus, we immediately have something that's going to help them get through. We have breakfast there for them. We have lunch there for them. We're very proud of what we serve for them. Our campus is clean. I just opened up today with my classified staff, which is custodians, cafeteria, EAs, all of the office staff. And I said, you know, if you're proud of working where you're at, and if you, as a community, take control of this campus and make it safe, our kids are going to want to be there. Mm-hmm. And they're going to want to be there because once they leave our gates, there's no guarantee that that's going to be there for them out there. And if they can accomplish that, our kids will come to school. They just will. If I make it safe, if I make it to where there's nothing that gets in the way, no matter what they come from, we're going to get academics out of them. How much is whatever we can, right? If we don't have the proper support with drugs or alcohol, I got plenty of families in there that are supportive. I've got families in there that are working 3 and 4 jobs and still have time for their kids. Mm-hmm. And then there are the few that don't have that support. But when they come to the campus, it's consistent. They know it's safe. They know there's somebody behind every door.
Jill, I know that young people who come from afar to teach in a far-off place where they may see huge cockroaches for the first time, for example, or you know, all sorts of things around their living room. Sometimes they moan about their students or about the backgrounds they come from. Don't you hear complaints about or concerns about what students are facing when they come to school?
You know, not really. To be perfectly honest, I know you want me to say something different, but
I don't care what you say.
Do
you think I would limit speech here? Do you really believe that?
They really come because they care about our kids, and they are here to do what it takes to help our kids to be successful. And like Dean said, it's their job to create a space that is safe, to create a space where kids love learning, and to hold high expectations for kids and let them believe in themselves and instill confidence. And that's what they're here to do. And I think about myself going to Washington Heights in New York City, where I had never been, and similarly saw all kinds of new things and had new experiences. But I was there every day in my classroom from early in the morning to very late at night with kids on the weekends. And we saw progress. And like Ron said, that's what fires you up and makes you think, I'm hooked. And so from there, you know, it becomes, you know, it's the core of that program of being in the classroom and gaining that real insight and conviction and passion that this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life.
So, but there's a kid coming from Iowa for the first time to Hawaii, to Keaau, and they're going to teach. I mean, I came to Hawaii the first time scared the daylights out of me. I mean, it seemed so far, it was beautiful, but it was foreign, right?
So we do a lot of programming.
Do you do anything to make them sensitize them?
Yes, we do a lot of cultural programming. So in fact, it's not a total hypothetical because we have a new teacher who's going to be at Keaau High School this coming year, who is from Arkansas. So that's not actually a hypothetical. But what we do is in partnership, again, with lots of people, provide some cultural programming. So on the Big Island, the Kahua program, all of our teachers will go through that program. And here on Oahu, last year we partnered with Kamehameha Schools to do a Teaching with Aloha program, year-long cultural scope and sequence where they learn about the history and the culture and people and place and culturally responsive teaching strategies so that they can become even more sensitive to how do we build strong relationships with our students and our families. So it's an important part of our program. as you know, we especially with our first-year teachers.
And you warn them about cockroaches.
And we talk about cockroaches.
Big ones.
But fly.
What do you say to a kid or to a family that is beset by drug problems and drug abuse? I mean, how do you help that kid out?
You know, part of what we do, what we all do, is we try and strive for transformational change. And oftentimes drugs and alcohol abuse, even domestic abuse, all of those indicators, it becomes a generational thing. So the point is really to just try and have as much intervention and effective parenting classes that we can, so that we tell the parents what's going to happen to their young child or to their children if they continue this path. That's happening on one end. On the other angle with the young child, there's so many books, stories, journals, type of things that they can reflect on, that they can see where their sense of place is and where they can go to. So you talk about developing resiliency, that would probably be it. That they are in control of their own space, which is their body. And from that, they can build out and become whatever they want to be. And just constantly walking with the parents. I mean, that's one of the key things that, we're going to help the child get to the school, get them ready, have them be stable, but we really need to work with that parent too, to have them realize that what their place is and their kuleana is with their child and children.
Several years ago, we had a student on who was a high school student and who was living in a shelter. Her family was living in a shelter. Her mother and she and her sister were living in a shelter. And she expressed embarrassment at having to admit to classmates that she was living in a shelter. That's got to be hard for homeless kids, isn't it?
Yeah, but I can tell you this one thing. I have a current teacher. She's going to become a teacher in our program, and she was actually in my youth program at the shelter. And her sister just graduated or is graduating high in her class in Waianae, even trying to go into a military academy. That's resilience. And she actually wants to serve the community that she's a part of. So we tried to do positive youth development programs within the shelter that takes away the stigma of being homeless. And I think we do okay. We do a lot of mentoring with the people within the community. We bring in people, Hawaiian mentors, even a vocation. A lot of things are carpentry and things like that. So as we do those things, they feel more normal.
Where's the Kamehameha schools and all of this? They help fund a lot along the Waianae coast over in Waimanalo, right? Yeah.
They generously fund us. We love Kamehameha schools. No.
You're getting a whole bunch of plugs in today.
No, but I'm actually serious.
Because I remember one of the arguments years ago when there were problems with the trustees was that they had cut off some of the help.
It's going in a really positive direction with the Kapoi initiative.
Great partner.
And we're definitely a full partner, and it's definitely mutually beneficial between us and Kamehameha Schools. The Office of Hawaiian Affairs would be another organization. They acknowledge the need and the rise in homeless Native Hawaiian families and the need for all of us to step up, and they have.
What can the community do to help students? More money, more books, more computers. If you could have any, I know you're all going to say more money, but let's leave more money off for a minute. More books, more computers, more what from the community?
You know, I think what we really need. We're in the stages of you mentioned it, Danny, transformational change in Hawaii. Our work around our strategic plan in the department and getting our new accountability system approved by the federal government that changed all the measures of the No Child Left Behind to college and career ready indicators. Kids doing well on the ACT test, and changing that trajectory for Hawaii so that we have a highly educated populace in Hawaii, setting a tone where we're not just competing with the rest of the country. We're going to compete internationally. Our students competing at an international, global level. I think the best thing community can do is push for that kind of raising of the rigor, raising of the expectations. Everybody helps. All parents care about their kids. We all express that care differently, but all parents care, and all kids want to do well. The art of it or the magic of it is finding the right fit to connect people to the sort of ways that they can be successful. But I think collectively, we as Hawaii have to set our sights on, we want this very highly educated state where we all push each other for, there are no magic bullets. It's not like we can wave a magic wand and all of a sudden everybody's just going to show up as prepared or resilient or, with the grit, as the viewer said. But I think it's really about raising our state's expectations for what's good enough in education. And I think that's a really tall order because we all went to school, so we all have a sort of frame of what it looks like. But this global competitiveness is a high bar. I mean, it's a high bar. All of us that, we all know, if we don't get the 55 by 25, 55% of working age adults, college graduate by the year 2025, Hawaii will miss its chance to be globally competitive. And, we want to, I think in Hawaii, we all want to be in charge of our own destiny. We don't want to be our destiny to be decided for us by other countries or other entities. And I think that the heart of that is building a really strong education-minded community. And so it doesn't require, obviously money and resources and all that's great, but I think fundamentally it has to start from a sort of grassroots, like we want more for our kids, we want better for our kids, we're gonna hold each other to a higher standard, and not throw rocks at each other kind of thing, but like how can we, it's a very Hawaii thing. Like, how can we work together to try and achieve this outcome? I think it's doable. It's just a huge task.
It's a huge task. Jill, Teach for America, one Teach for America teacher I know of recently decided to go home. Just 2 years were up, right? Another one fell in love with the students in the Ava area, decided to stay. Third one went to San Francisco because she made $20,000 more a year there at a school district in the suburbs. Don't teachers need more money? Let's assume that the vast majority are dedicated to what they're doing. Don't we lose Teach for America teachers certainly because of that?
Money is not important, but I don't think that that's why we lose people. I actually think that people stay. When we see their teachers who stay and we ask why, it is because they're really committed to their kids and their community, and oftentimes they feel this sense of there's expectations and we're moving somewhere, and they want to feel like they're a part of change, and that's why people stay. They see leadership opportunities, they see a system that's moving in a direction, and they're excited to be a part of that.
Dorothy thanks us for this wonderful program. You are showing the face of the real educators in Hawaii that don't get much credit. Wonderful things happen in the public schools all the time, not just the private schools. What about the private schools? I've always felt the problem is the private schools. That the private schools now, Kamehameha schools puts a Kamehameha over on the Big Island, must suck students who might have been going to Keaau. They've got one on Maui, right? Already, Big Island, Maui, and so forth. They've got, they're here. Then there are all those other private schools. I mean, right nearby here, and Punahou and Iolani and so forth. Did you go to a private school?
I did go to a private
Which
school.
one?
I went to Punahou.
You went to Punahou. Did you go? Well, you were on mainland.
Yeah, I went to a public school.
Well, all of us mainland guys go to public schools because we don't have anything else.
I went to both.
You went to where'd you go?
I went to Kaimiki and then I graduated from St. Louis.
St. Louis. St. Louis is just an extension of Kaimuki, isn't it?
I went to private school, Punahou.
Punahou. Oh, guys. Doesn't the private school constitute a problem for private schools, for the public schools, and for all of that extra effort that has to be put into public school education, that has to take care of people who are suffering in poverty, suffering from drug abuse, suffering from all sorts of things? That money's going it's not being supported by public schools.
There's plenty of space. The way I look at it, a good friend of mine says net gain for Hawaii. So, private school, charter school, homeschool, independent school, parochial, there's plenty of space in Hawaii for all of it. And every family has its own preferences, and that's the way it should be. We don't just, as the Department of Education person, we see the partnerships. The private schools are good partners with us. We talk with each other, we exchange ideas, we share resources. I mean, it's not a territorial deal. people, I think when you're talking about education, everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants successful students, and that part is a unifying thing. So, you know, it's not a competition. It's not a fight. It's not a, you know, if kids have the means to go to places and it, you know, it's good for them, good for them. Like, I think all of us would want the best for any kid. Doesn't matter, you know, what their socioeconomic status is or what their family background is. And I think changing that mindset in Hawaii, that it's not like it's not an us and them thing, man. This is like a we thing. Like, we're all in this together, and we all have to move this. It's going to take everybody to move us to this very lofty goal. And I think we need more friends than enemies. This is not something that should be ever considered a divisive thing. It should always be focused on as a unifying, we're all in it together. And as my friend taught me a while ago, you know, ultimately it's a net gain. So if a kid leaves one of our schools and goes to some other school, and they, you know, it's not a loss for the public school system. It's a net gain for Hawaii, because that kid's has a bright future.
Dean, excuse me, do you agree with that?
You know, I often said that we're going to get the status of being called Keaau Preparatory Academy. For some reason, I think then our community would go, wow, Preparatory Academy, that's really a great, is that a private school? You know, I think we're establishing ourselves to where we can be competitive with them. They have different standards that are held to them than the public schools. So with that, then I think the private school has the ability to say, you had drugs in your family, go to public school. Or you know, so in a sense, there's a bit of a difference in what you can do in a public school. But in our society, you have choice. And that choice is, do I or don't I want my child to go where I want to go? And that's the ideal situation about America. You know, I don't ever want to take that away from anybody. What I want to do is become better. Right. And I will, as a public school, become better than a preparatory academy. So I know my kids and my staff can do it. I just have to prove it to the public. And I have to get that media that wants to, you know, come in and say things. You know, they love to get in and really nitpick at the public schools about how this is happening and that is happening. You know, lately our media person has been incredible about doing great reporting for us. And it's really been given Keaau a neat change. And, you know, you talk about the community. I want the community, we're hard pressed to say, give me more community, because we're farmers, we're away from, I can't ask them to give anymore, but you know, I'd like them to come and be on the campus and learn about the campus. And once they learn about the campus with us, then together we can do something. Together we can make it better. But they got to come in and be involved with the community, our campus. We open it up to the community all of the time. Parent community walkthroughs, open houses, parent-teacher conferences, you know. The more they come, it truly, you know, it's an old cliche, but the more the village is involved with raising the child, the better the child will be. And I know we're starting to go that way, and the private schools and our charter schools are our community. And I need to be as involved in them as they are with me, because together we can make that community grow, right? And that's truly, truly important.
Well, I think the problem, and I'm obviously coming from a very specific angle, is access to high quality early childhood education before they get to the public or private choice. That's what's needed. So if you ask what can community do, you know, if we generate more interest in having every child be able to attend not only a quality preschool, but I really emphasize the term high quality preschool, I think then the playing field becomes a little even. That the child then enters kindergarten with the skill sets needed, not only social, emotional, but also things like alphabet awareness, phonemes, phonics, those type of things that are the early indicators for learning. As a family literacy trainer, our mantra is from birth to 8, you learn how to read, and from 8 on, you read to learn. So if the basic fundamentals, you know, it's like lifting weights. If you don't have the basic form set up from the beginning, you're going to end up getting hurt. So what often happens is those that can afford, in say, an NAYC accredited preschool, which runs from $7,000 to $12,000 annually, and that track is now pretty much determined. So I think that's kind of where the gap is.
Well, certainly early childhood education is one of the places where people feel that equality in some respect can be achieved. But isn't there a problem in that a lot of people just are not going to accept the idea of creating a program that big, that costs that much money. I think the governor asked for $21 million this past year, right? He got far less than that, but he got
6.
something. He got 6, right?
But I mean, that's where it goes back to community awareness, though. If the community understood the importance of early childhood education, there would be, we could make the funding happen and we could get the program going. There's also...
But you don't mean it's going to overcome poverty, it's going to overcome drug abuse, it's going to overcome, are you saying that?
Well, I'm saying that if you take care of early childhood education, then we talk about transformational change. It begins with the next generation and moves forward. Don't quote me on this, but I believe the state of Mississippi, you can write it down.
I'll quote you. Go ahead.
No, but I believe at one time the state of Mississippi looked at 4th grade reading scores, and where they were extremely low, that's where they would build the jails, the prisons, and beef up police forces, because the crime indicators also followed those 4th grade reading scores, early dropout rates, and all of those things. So it can make a difference.
Yeah. How many TFA teachers stay over 2 years? Do you have a percentage?
Yep, it's between 60 and 70% typically. Sometimes it varies beyond their second year. Between the first year and the second year, our rates are about 98%.
If Dean gets a TFA teacher from Arkansas and he doesn't he have to worry that the guy's going to leave in 2? How does he plan on the basis of you guys? I mean, will you always send him a teacher? Or 2 or 3 if he asks one?
If he wants one, we are here for him.
And they do say that. They do say that, too.
We do say that. And I think it's really interesting because one of the biggest predictors of teachers staying, like I said, is actually principals saying, we want you here, and building a culture where we want our teachers to stay, and then them seeing leadership opportunities and the ability to take things on. And we do really want our teachers to stay here in our classrooms, in our schools. And at the same time, we also know that we need people in all sectors who are going to be leaders who really understand the unique opportunities and challenges and the great things happening for kids in our communities. And so that is a part of solving this too. And so we have alums now, like Takashi Ono, who's at the House of Representatives, was the vice chair of the Education Committee this year. He was one of our Teach for America alums, not in the classroom, but doing great things for education. And we've got an alum, we've got Steve Schatz in the Department of Education, not in the classroom anymore, but leading great change with the Department of Education, and another alum who just got appointed to the Board of Education, Patricia Halagao. So these are people who we see may not stay in the classroom, but are doing great things in the community to continue to impact education from all sectors.
I think Jill's padding a lot of organizations here to help. Dean, how can you help the growing Micronesian population on the Big Island? Do you have many Micronesian students?
The majority of them actually are in the Keaau area and then Keonepoko and Pahoa. We have a large population. We're actually asking the churches to get involved with us. The churches really help in allowing us to learn about their culture and then allowing them to assimilate to ours. So the Department of Education is realizing pamphlets that with their language need to be coming out. We need to understand more about them. We really have had to use the community to blend us with what are they coming with as far as a culture and how can we assist them. And truly I think that's where we have to head, is how can we assist them in acclimating to us. I think they're willing. We just don't know how, and we need to educate ourselves better. So we've had to call into their community and ask them, how can we do this? And can you bring all of the factions together now that you're on a Hawaii island and you're facing this now too? So we've really had to reach out to the elders and mostly the churches because they, it's very respectful when it comes from the churches, and it's helped immensely with us making gains in our schools. But yes, there's a large population coming in, and it needs to be addressed because they're continuing to come. They like Hawaii.
A 36-year veteran of public school teaching says that one of the problems is that there's not enough social workers available, or a bridge between social worker organizations and the schools. Do you feel that that's a problem now? This person retired in '96, they said.
Social work between?
No, a bridge between the social problems that are affecting some students' learning and social workers who are needed to help the families that they come from?
I think one of the areas we could improve on is, and in our zones of innovation, it's one of the things that they work on.
Let's define that really quickly again. That's
We have two zones of innovation, one on Nanakuli Waianae on the leeward coast of Oahu, and one where Dean's from, Keaau, Keaau on the Big Island. And those are our two sort of demonstration, showcase, innovation sites where we've spent a lot of time and energy working with the folks in the zone to sort of build our internal capacity and strengthen our systems. And one of the things that I think we have found is there are a lot of people, a lot of resources out there, and we were talking about this before we came on the show. A lot of resources out there, but they're not aligned. So a lot of people want to help, a lot of people want to kokua and chip in and you know, add value, but in many cases the continuum of those supports is not laid out in a way that, number one, is accessible to folks, where people understand what those connections are, and two, sometimes they're not aligned, where like they have conflicting programs or stepping on each other's toes, so to speak. And so,
why aren't they aligned?
I think it's just been the way that things have developed over time, and we've learned from other places around the country that have done those kinds of work, really building community school concept, building the arrays of supports around kids. That when it's like sort of when you focus on the kid and then you build the supports around the kid rather than build the supports around the programs, you get a different level of access and use.
Well, is this $75 million we got from the feds? Is that going to help in that?
Part of that money was dedicated to this sort of community schools concept, and there are a couple places. There are five of our complex areas are moving forward with these centers, and you know, Castle High School on the windward side of Oahu is a great example of that kind of community realignment. And
Yeah, if you don't mind me jumping in a little bit.
go ahead.
Jump on.
Yeah.
it.
Go ahead. He's got plenty to say about it.
No, because we have a couple of programs that, and this is where I think the nonprofit and the Department of Education can work together and sort of meld together in programs. There's a comprehensive family education program in Blanche Pope Elementary, which has become a blue ribbon school. That involves from the early birth to 5, but also providing adult education and C-base for the continuing adult ed programs, but also doing tutoring, being involved in mentoring really the parents through the whole elementary school years. And then we have another program called Kahana Noe'au in Kohala. And it's a youth mentoring program, and when they first started the program, they gave the youth mentoring, David Fuertes, who works out there, they gave him all the kids that they didn't want in the school. But he taught them how to work with their hands, how to work with the community, and they're really high achieving now, you know, as far as I think a valedictorian was part of this program. So there's really a way for nonprofit and community to work together with the schools to make it a perfect place.
Robert in Wahiawa wants to know this, and I do too, because all of my students nowadays are always going like this all the time. And he's saying, is there a way to use cell phones for instructional purposes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Do your teachers, I bet they complain about cell phones, right?
Well, as long as, you know, the whole thing about that is managing what they are using it for, you know, and if you can provide it at the school level versus them bringing in, or you can somehow be able to block from, you know, and we haven't really technically been to that point where we can do it. Are they a great tool? Do the kids love them? Yes. Do we go with, are we trying to do, we've got the one-to-one initiatives that are 2 of our schools out in the zone are having them, I think 8 others that have been selected. So it is the technology of the future for our kids. But I personally had to ban electronics from my campus because, you know, it was being used irresponsibly. You know, just like us, we had to make laws that said, put your phone away while you're driving, don't text, don't talk, right? We as adults have not taught ourselves responsibility. So you know kids coming up aren't getting that either. Now, our kids have never grown up without a cell phone. The kids that we get through 9th grade have never been brought up without a cell phone. That is way different than what we were brought up with. And it's like a second thumb to them, you know. So if we can manage it, that's great. Yeah, well, some of them don't have, some of them have it in their pocket and they're up like this writing and texting. These kids are phenomenal with technology, and with that we have to really teach the responsibility and the respect that are involved with it. Give it to the kids at the school so it then can be monitored, and you're not bringing in things that you don't want to have inside of the campus, you know. So it's a tricky situation in making sure that we do give it to the kids, that they can use it. Great tools. I think they're great tools, but they have to be done correctly.
Is the DOE doing anything to try to use these as teaching tools?
No, I think we're focusing very similar to what Dean was talking about on making sure that kids understand the ethical, being an ethical user of technology. It's one of our general learner outcomes. It's, you're not going to control it, but kids have to know how to do it appropriately and when.
Do you live on your cell phone?
I try not to, but unfortunately I do.
Do you live on your cell phone?
Except at the dinner table with kids.
I bet you don't.
I don't live on my cell phone, no.
Do you, Dan?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But I was thinking the cell
Enough said.
phone cell phone thing would be great, but we just would have to have access for all, especially for those that wouldn't be able
And
to
it
afford.
is going to be, it's a technology that Dean said, like, kids are growing up with. And when we think about the global future, we have to think about what are the technologies they're going to need for the next century, and what are the ethical and moral ways that they need to be responsible in using it.
Well, we're just about out of time, and I want to say thank you very much, because I agree with that earlier caller. It's always great to have teachers and people involved in education on, because sometimes we forget how good we are and how much and how hard people work. Thank you very much, and good luck in all of your work. Next week on Insights, for all the talk about the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, as it's become known, not many of us know what to expect from it. The first significant change will be in the launch of the Hawaii Health Connector on October 1st, but others will follow. On the next Insights on PBS Hawaii, we ask, what changes can Hawaii residents expect from the Affordable Care Act? Our guests will include Senator Josh Green, a practicing physician, Coral T. Andrews, Executive Director of the Hawaii Health Connector, Dr. Virginia Pressler, Executive Vice President at Hawaii Pacific Health, and Dr. Stephen Bradley from the Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Center. That's next time on Insights on PBS Hawaii. I'm Dan Boylan. Ahui ho.